I'll brush my TV with mayonnaise and slime.
I'll crush my TV for its horrible crimes.
Toby Fox is a douche. Deltarune is waiting. You egg, I've been waiting. I've been waiting an extra 8 months. Please note the pattern on screen. Hell, I'm still waiting. This is supposed to come out in like October. I've been laying awake at night for months waiting for answers. This is a fall thing. Okay. None of that matters now. None of that matters. All that matters is that it's almost here. And it's beautiful. Oh, I need it. Finally, after years of nothing but questions, and questions, and more questions, we finally get some answers. We have to look at where we are. Chapter 4, Church Dark World was not on my bingo card, but here it is. If there was ever a location that was going to be chock full of lore, it's here. But wait, I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Let's look back on those questions before we finally get some answers in a day or two. Depending on when this comes out. I want this video to be a time capsule. Something we can look back on years and years from now and remember what it was like to sit here speculating and headcanoning while we waited and waited for a day that seemed like it would never come, but may have long since passed as you watch this. It actually feels really weird. Things have been like this since September of 2021, and after June 5th, it just won't be. All the theories, all the wants, all the hopes, who knows what will come to pass in a day or two's time. So today, I'm going to give my predictions for chapters 3 and 4 and beyond, my crack theories, stupid memes I like. You already read the title. This is... Let's start at the beginning. Well, not the beginning. If you're watching this, I'm assuming you know who Toby Fox is, and what Undertale is, and who the Pope is, and who MatPat is, and who Ness is. I'm also assuming you've played Deltarune chapters 1 and 2 if you're here. If you haven't, what the fuck? Go download them, they're free. Why are you here? What do you have to gain from watching this? Go fucking play it, what are you doing here? But for those of us who have played chapters 1 and 2, let's go through the Cliff Notes just to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? You turn the game on, you're greeted by a creepy disembodied voice who tells you to make a me. Pick a head, shirt, pants, favorite food, letter, color, gift, and... Look, I know I'm doing a bit, and it's way too early in this kind of video for me to get sentimental and kind of weird for a second time. But every time I get to this part, I just imagine this little person that I made, writhing in pain in some dark corner no one will ever see, cold and alone as the rest of the game happens far, far away from them. We don't know if we'll ever see them again after this. I mean, we probably will, but I can't say that for sure. They literally get thrown out. And we know based on what we learn later on that even if they don't have us, if they don't have their soul, they're probably still alive somewhere. I just hope they're being brave, you know? Anyway, we wake up as Chris Pratt, a lone human high school student in a world full of monsters. God, that sounds like the plot to a bad Disney show. Our mom, the first boss, drives us to school, everyone waves, we get to class. Uh-oh, my project partner is a velociraptor. That sounds like something you'd see at the Scholastic Book Fair. That's Susie. Sometimes Susie, sometimes Susan. Our teacher can't find the chalk, she tells us to go get some. Oh no, Susie is eating all the chalk. Oh no, Susie is going to eat us! Haha, JK, now let's go get the chalk for real this time. Also, our choices don't matter or something? I don't know. Uh-oh, the supply closet has a bottomless pit in it. Don't you hate when that happens? After surviving a few thousand-foot fall, we wake up in Pittsburgh, and after walking for a bit, we find Susie getting sniped at by Lancer. We are chased to Castletown, where this tooth-based creature tells us some lore. TLDR, the world is going to end unless we all team up to close the dark fountains that have been popping up recently for some mysterious reason. Susie doesn't feel like doing that, Lancer shows up, then leaves for dinner. Susie still doesn't feel like doing this, then leaves the party behind. And so, one tutorial later, we set off to find her and close the fountain. We follow the trail of flattened enemies and destroyed cakes to a puzzle Susie has gotten stuck on. And after explaining it will take all three of them working together to close the fountain and go home, she begrudgingly joins the party, complete with fanfare. Their threesome now completed, we enter combat. We tell Susie not to hit the enemies, she refuses. Through the door, we meet Master of Local Cryptic Lore Sham, yes, that is how you spell that. They tell us about how the Lightners locked away the darkness in whatever this place is, and how 3 of the 4 kings ruling this land were locked away by a strange knight, leaving the 4th king and his son, Lancer, to rule alone, and seek revenge on the Lightners. Which are us. Except for Rousey, probably. We continue to the right, Lancer stops us, Susie threatens to rip his weird spade face off, he thanks her for the advice, and leaves. The party continues west, crossing the Great Board, encountering Lancer halfway across. They choose a team name in a sequence I wish I had time to show in full, and have a battle with this majestic being at the end. Look at him. You know, most people insist the Fun Gang is the canon name for these guys, but they'll always be the Beep Squad to me. Following the fight, Rousey chews out Susie for only attacking the beast and not doing anything to loosen its crown. This prompts Susie to join Lancer on the side of evil, and track jackets. The Beep Squad gives chase and hijinks ensue. And oh, this music. If you do not think that is the single greatest forest theme in video game history, please meet me behind your local Waffle House at 3 AM so we can discuss our differing views. With our fists. And fire. Anyway, Lancer and Susie do some things as friends, even though they're not friends. Spoilers, they are friends. We meet a weird dog, design a thrash machine, find a bake sale, go through a maze. Fuck, I may have that out of order. And finally, we confront Susie and Lancer one last time. The scuffle uniting everyone as one party, track jackets and all. With everyone now working together, we head down the road to go close the dark fountain and head home. Except, oh no, Lancer's dad is guarding the fountain. Now he's all conflicted and doesn't know what to do, so he runs off towards the castle entrance. We give chase, get captured, and end up in a tiny cell. We eat the moss. It does nothing. We're screwed. At least until Susie appears, having escaped her cell. After helping her with a puzzle, we astral project. I don't know exactly what happens here, but it happens again later and it's important, I swear, so keep it in mind. Anyway, Susie confronts Lancer after he reveals that he's the reason the party has been captured. They fight, and it looks like Susie is all set to end him. Until she doesn't. Instead, Susie begs Lancer to move, but he refuses, not wanting to see his father and his best friend rip each other pixel from pixel. Susie promises to work things out with Lancer's dad without throwing hands, and the duo make up. After fading back in, Susie busts through the cell door, interrupting Rousey and Chris mid-conversation. With the gang back together, they start to make their way to the top of the castle to confront King in a probably passive manner. And it's around here where we can go fight Jevil, but there's a lot to unpack there, so let's come back to that. Maybe. Not really. Okay, look, he's really hard, his fight music slaps, and he's tied to Gaster spammed in a mic. That's it. That's all I know. Fucking... As we climb to the top, we run into this annoying booty cheek, Rules card. His whole joke is that he says his puzzles are hard, and then they're not hard. It's a Toby Fox staple. But then on the penultimate floor, he actually brings out the GOAT for a rematch. But this time, Susie has a plan. Yeet! With the little guy defeated for the 3rd time this chapter, we finally see our last obstacle. King. And upon seeing that his son has befriended the people he specifically said to not befriend, he promptly chokes him Homer style and threatens to drop him to his death. But Lancer manages to break free, and the inevitable battle begins, with King rambling about the night Sham mentioned earlier, but it's all pretty incoherent. 15 turns later and King is exhausted and falls to his knees defeated, prepared to make peace with us. Rousey heals him and...
When the light is running low and the shadows start to grow.
Instead, Chris shields Susie from one of King's attacks and gets a spade shower for their trouble. Right before they're finished off by King, Susie manages to land an attack on him, growing eyes in the process. King has had enough of this, but it doesn't really matter because suddenly Lancer rushes back in with a mob of Darkeners, who are equal parts sick of King's shit and want to pay us back for our kindness throughout the playthrough. If you didn't beat the shit out of anyone. If you did, then Rousey just casts Pacify on King, and the mob turns on the party. Either way, it's time to say goodbye, and one face reveal later, we close the fountain and head home. Upon returning to the light world, we end up in the abandoned classroom, which is full of objects that just so happen to mirror things we encountered in the dark world. With some new friendships forged and the day saved, it's time to go home. But not before exploring the town and... Okay, look, this could take forever to summarize, so TLDR, you can talk with the parallel versions of Undertale characters because this is the parallel story to that game, whatever that means. Sans knows you know things you shouldn't know. Undyne and Alphys aren't a couple yet. Asgore and Toriel are still divorced, but this time Asgore is an ex-cop turned flower salesman on the verge of being evicted. None of that is super important right now, but it probably will be soon. Oh, and you can visit Noelle's dad in the hospital. That is important. And so is the church, and Father Alvin, and Garrison Boom. Lots of foreshadowing going on there that'll play into Chapter 4, probably, hopefully. Then there's the bunker. Regardless of how you spend your time around town, you will have to go home and go to bed eventually. But later that night, Chris gets up, removes you, us, the player, that's the player, throws them in a cage, then brandishes a knife ominously, and shows us their showering gun? In a manner very similar to the ending you get in Undertale if you perform a pacifist run after completing a genocide run, which has some unnerving implications for the story moving forward. I mean, what could this mean? I mean, there's so much to unpack. What? Is Chris evil? Are we evil? And then we had to wait for 3 years. Oh my god. So, after the second longest night ever, Chris awakens to Toriel confronting them about how they ate a whole pie last night and did nothing else. We are once again in control, which raises even more of those dreaded questions. Can you feel them stacking up yet? Soon enough, we're back in school, Chris sleeps through class, and Susie is waiting to head back into the dark world with some not-so-funny dialogue in tow. Is this a fucking game to you? We head back to the closet, but we're stopped by Noelle, that dear girl that sits at the front of the class. She invites us, mostly Susie, to come do some schoolwork with her and Bertley. He's that tool bag that had to stand on his desk to read earlier. Unfortunately, we have to decline, as there's crime that needs committing. She leaves and we jump in. We're quickly greeted by Rousey, and only Rousey, who then promptly instructs us to go to the old classroom, grab all the junk on the ground, and bring it here. Upon returning to the Dark World, all the objects transform into the characters from the first chapter, who will now permanently reside in Castletown. Also, Lancer is back. Nice. So yeah, as our adventure continues, we'll bring back more and more peeps to Castletown. Assuming we don't beat the hell out of them. We can't kill them, but they do run away, so that's a thing. After checking out our new Dark World digs, courtesy of Rousey, and watching Susie eat a whole-ass cake that was made for all of us, terrible! You're both terrible, you know that? Our visit is cut short when Rousey learns that we have homework and kicks us out until we do it. Because he's a nerd! Lancer jumps in our pocket. Rules also comes because, Anyway, we make our way to the library where a new dark fountain has been opened! And since we kinda need the computer lab to do our project, we're left with no choice but to seal the fountain. This dark world is different, though. And green. After just a few steps, we find a trail of carnage and danger, which leads us to Noelle, who is quickly abducted by Chapter 2's new antagonist, drumroll, Queen. She's crazy and drinks acid, but not the drug kind. She plans to use Noelle as her willing peon to help take over the world. She may also make her a robot. Her plan is all over the place, just roll with it. But before we can engage in non-violent combat, Queen leaves, and we fight some of her gross face wires. Chris and Susie manage to win the battle, but more wire-wires crop up almost immediately. But have no fear, Rousey's here! Somehow. And with the Beep Squad back together, this adventure can start for real! We're pestered by Queen, some puzzles, and some music men. Dance party! The cyberfield really takes no time at all, and soon we're on a roller coaster heading towards the city. Surely nothing can stop us now. Like I said, nothing. Okay, but seriously, Bertley is also here, as he was the only other person in the library, I guess. Oh, and Noelle is working with Queen, kinda. She couldn't muster the nerve to say no. God, I feel that. But since she won't fight our party, Bertley gets subbed in. And boy, you either knew a Bertley in school, or you were a Bertley in school. I was a Birdly in school, but I don't like to talk about that. Anyway, his plans to create a Smartopia are thwarted after you ram his coaster enough times. But, plot twist, the coaster isn't actually finished, and the Beep Squad fall to their untimely death.
When the light is running low and the
Yeah, no, they're fine. And heading into the city. And splitting up. Have fun, Chris! Luckily, it only takes a few feet to find more company, as Chris runs across Noelle, Queen, and Birdly, forming some strange alliances, but the one with Noelle is the only one that matters. 1, because she's going to be our only party member for a while, and 2, because she lets us commit murder. This is where the game splits into 2 paths. Okay, technically there are 3 paths. Maybe more, but I'm focusing on the 2 big ones for now. Hello everybody, it's Guy, and it's about 3 in the morning, and I've had an unfortunate revelation that the audio for the Chapter 2 sections has come out kind of scuffed. I don't know exactly what happened, but considering how dire the circumstances are right now, I wasn't sure I was going to get those edited in time anyway, so I'm just going to take this as a kiss and a curse. I'm going to attempt to summarize both Chapter 2 routes just completely off the cuff. So, without further ado, here we go. So we hook up with Noelle, we form our little alliance, we start kind of going down through the city, and we have this sort of cat and mouse Three Stooges thing with Queen and Birdly, where Queen is trying to capture Noelle, Birdly isn't trying to capture Queen, but just wants to be in the vicinity of her, and Queen just can't stand that. This eventually leads to the famous car scene with the banana and the potassium. Applause, please, thank you. After that, we get I don't want to call it a flashback sequence, but we walk with Noelle for a while, and she talks about her sister and Azriel, and how things used to be a long, long time ago. And it helps show how she's getting stronger as we go through the story. Her character arc is arcing, for lack of a better term. After that, we finally meet back up with, I almost said Chris and Susie, with Noelle and we meet back up with... I can't do this. We meet back up with Ralze and Susie. There, got it, finally. Oh my god. And with everyone now back as one unit, we head straight to Queen's Mansion. But, you know, Noelle is there now without a disguise. And, hang on. Excuse me. With Noelle there without a disguise, she gets captured along with everyone else. Except for Ralze, because she didn't make enough cages. Anyway, we end up in our search history room. Susie's talking to us through the playground funnel tube thing, and we decide to bust out the secret weapon, which is Lancer. He frees us, but ultimately ends up turning to stone because he's not compatible with this dark world, and we head over and solve those light puzzles, which Birdly gets completely owned at, especially after Susie just figures one out completely sort of off the cuff, intuitively. Then we get his whole little backstory, where it turns out he got his whole smarts complex after he won a spelling bee against Noelle when they were very, very young, because Noelle choked because she didn't, want to spell out her dead sister's name, because, it's kind of a lot. Anyway, Birdly turns to the side of ignorance, which is, what the hell, but, he's working with us anyway, so, it's good, it's better. Anyway, we take Lancer to Ralze. Ralze can't do anything because this isn't an issue of illness, this is an issue of Dark World incompatibility. I don't know how that works for him. Ralze is really suspicious, as we're going to see a little bit later. Birdly, now feeling kind of bad, decides we're all going to form a unit here. He has a plan to save Noelle. We all start putting it in action, but this is the part where we go and we fight Spampton. This is the part where we go and fight Spampton, which I've completely forgotten to mention up till now, because we technically met him in the middle of the car sequence. But anyway, you do a whole bunch of very convoluted stuff. You go down to the basement, you fight Spampton. He, of course, has that new shiny Neo body. And you're going to get your ass kicked a couple of times. Just, that's how these secret bosses work. After a while, Spampton will fall, and start to draw some parallels here between him and Chris. Both sort of not in control of themselves. They have these strings on them. Chris is a little bit more metaphorical, but we are the puppet master. We control the strings. I do not think Chris will die if they are severed from us, though. But I do think they need us for something. And I do think it bothers them that they are not in total control of themselves. Anyway, after this fight, Ralze just tries to brush it off. He tries to pretend that, it's not a big deal. Chris, everything's gonna be fine. Hey, you want me to make some dessert? You want to make some fucking crepes? Because, you know, that's just what you say after your friend's been traumatized. Anyway, we head back up, we make our way around. We meet Birdly up at the secret bookcase passage of secrecy. We hand off Susie to him, and we go through the Tunnel of Love with Rousey, which I don't like the acid Tunnel of Love at all. This whole sequence is just, it feels like padding to me. But hey, you know, this is where we get to see the Thrash Machine again. That sets up a little bit of foreshadowing for the final boss, which is cool. That's always cool, but I think it's just the placement of this, because it comes right between Spamton and the final boss of the chapter, so it feels like just a really long, slow part in the middle of two really intense parts. Anyway, we make it out the other side. We do some astral projecting to check in on Susie and Noelle again. They have a cute little, I guess it's sort of an impromptu date. It's very awkward, but very cute. I really like this sequence. But anyway, they come out the other side, and Susie has to duck out, and Birdly admits to Noelle that because of a very esoteric gamer reference Susie made a little bit earlier, he is now in love with her. And Noelle is just not going to have that, and she chokes the... Okay, I think she's supposed to be grabbing his shirt, but I can't help but see it as, Noelle, you are choking me! Anyway, Susie lands on Rousey. He's totally okay, don't worry about it. And everybody gears up for the final battle, where as it turns out Birdly and Noelle have been captured again. We square off with Queen, we manage to break Birdly loose again. Queen tells us a little bit more about the night and exactly how to make a dark world. We see Noelle strung up on the big hand again. We intervene, but of course it's not over. Queen shows up with her giant robot, and we get knocked off, but Birdly's there to save the day with everyone else we had met throughout the chapter. We all combine our forces to make one awesome Megazord to combat Queen's awesome crazy robot. We have a game of Punch-Out in the street. It's awesome. I really, 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 really love this fight. It's so cool. Anyway, it looks like we've won. Then Queen pulls out her rocket-powered fist and is able to land a killing blow on the giant robot and capture the Beep Squad again. And tells Noelle one last time, look, you're going to help me. And Noelle says, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm going to make some choices on my own here. I can't be happy if you're constantly pressing on me. But you keep saying, oh, Noelle, I want you to be happy. You know, potentially paralleling some family drama going on in the light world. Read between the lines there. After hearing this, Queen is surprisingly chill, and she says, hey, Noelle, you know, you do what you want, okay? And she just kind of dies. And it looks like we're getting ready to close the fountain, but then everyone goes, hey, you know, the Dark Worlds are kind of sick. Why don't we just keep making more of those? For Rousey to then jump in and say, hey, if you keep making these, the world's gonna end. So, ha 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 ha. Maybe stop, don't do that. And with that, we head over and we close the fountain. Meanwhile, in the weird route, we just kind of use Chris as a proxy to bully Noelle into doing exactly what we ask. Sort of the exact opposite of her arc in the normal route, where she's stronger in quotes, but obviously she has just completely succumbed to us pushing her, and the sort of puppet string tendrils of our influence as the player grow a little bit longer, if that makes any sense. And this, of course, leads to all the Cyberworld Darkeners being frozen, and Spamton has an opportunity to take over. All around, pretty horrible. It's all pretty horrible. I also really don't like the Spamton Neo fight in the Snowgrave route. It's just, I don't know what it is, but I swear it's fivefold harder. My controller does not work correctly. I don't know what happens. But after battling our way through, we do manage to close the fountain, and everyone wakes up in the library, except for Birdly, of course. That is what the route is most known for. What I really want to know is, keeping with the theme of our choices don't matter, would Birdly have died anyway, even if we don't do a Snowgrave route? Is Birdly's fate predetermined, or is Birdly even dead in the Snowgrave route? We don't know anything about that yet though, because of course Chris goes home and does this. And really that last little bit is what inspired this whole video, because it is such a massive, massive cliffhanger, and we've been hanging on it for 3+ years now. Now, I could try to remember every single thing I said about this cliffhanger and recreate it perfectly, but the most important thing I want to take away from my original script is that in the fall 2024 newsletter, Toby compared the wait to release chapters 3 and 4 to being strapped to a chair and not being able to eat a bunch of these cheap market basket cheeseburgers, which if you haven't had any of these, please stop this video right now and go eat some market basket cheeseburgers. I don't care how far away you are or how much of a journey it is, just go do it right now. Now that we've all had some, I hope you can see now why that is so frustrating, because these are really, really good, and equating to a video game to how beautiful the market basket cheeseburger is, and then saying we can't have it for X amount of months for whatever reason is just torturous. Toby Fox truly, truly is an evil man. I mean that with no jest. Absolutely none. There's no sarcasm. This is a very, very serious video. That is why I am recording it while I am completely sleep deprived at 3 in the morning. Now I am going to cut back into the proper scripted video and say that I am okay. I would just like you all to know I am not okay. I am very tired. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Now, what's going to happen next? Well, I have a pretty good idea of what Chapter 3 will be like, and I can speculate on Chapter 4. But for Chapter 5 and beyond, Noelle's sister gassed her the bunker, why Asgore was fired. Can anyone actually give me a solid theory as to who the knight is? Because since it's been revealed that anyone can open a dark fountain, everyone has been on the table. Hell, I opened up one while I was freaking out off screen. Finally, after all these years, we have it. So, I've decided to divide everything into 2 sections. Chapter 3 and 4 stuff, and crack theory stuff. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I think it's pretty safe to say that a status quo has been established over the past 2 chapters. Each chapter starts with 2 characters from the light world entering the dark world for the first time, an antagonistic character who rules over their respective dark world and is guarding the fountain. One of the new Lighteners sides with the bad guys for a big chunk of the chapter. We spend a large portion of the chapter with a newly acquired magic user, and only the magic user. There's a checking in on Susie scene, there's a rules card fight at some point. They start in a field, then go to a densely packed maze-like area, then the antagonist's place of residence, which is where the secret boss lies that we can only access after getting an item from a strange shopkeep. This is also where we check in on Susie, and the rogue Lightener returns to our side. There's more than that, but you get the picture. This is a template we can use to predict the structure of Chapter 3 and 4. We can also speculate on when the status quo will be broken, because I think it's pretty safe to say that's the reason it's being set up in the first place. Okay, so Chapter 3 will start with Chris and Susie waking up in the Dark World since it's already been opened, ending up in some sort of field, of course. I don't know, let's call it the Static Field since it's sort of a punny TV name. Here's a screenshot of what it will probably look like, given that the file name is Chapter Intro Area. And we see these weird little things in a later screenshot that we know is from Chapter 3. I'm going to assume these will be like audience members, kind of like in Paper Mario, but that's not important right now. What is important is that I don't think Toriel will be joining us from the start. She's not in any of the screenshots we have, and we're not 100% sure what her role in this chapter will be. But I think it's safe to assume she's going to be the Noelle of this chapter, the new magic user, the person we spend a long period alone with to learn some lore. There's a catch though. You see, so far none of the characters which have been brought to the Dark World have had any knowledge of the prophecy, or even the Deltarune symbol it seems. Which is weird because if I traveled to another world and saw the symbol from my rug and in my room and in my local church and on my school plastered everywhere, I'd have some questions. But no, the Beep Squad have more important things to worry about, I guess. But Toriel? She's probably the one who put the Deltarune in your room and on the house, and probably the school she works at / owns? I mean, during Undertale's credits, I always assumed she owns this school, so maybe it's the same thing here? And speaking of Undertale, she's very closely associated with the symbol there too, but there it has a different meaning. It is said that its original meaning has been lost to time. but it's interpreted as an angel descending to free the monsters from the underground. There's a good chance this is still what it means to the Lighteners in Deltarune, as opposed to it only representing the 3 heroes stopping the angel. After all, why would a Dark World prophecy be all over the Light World? And while we don't know the exact history of Deltarune's world, there's a good chance that Deltarune's in-universe history shares quite a bit with Undertale. There's also a theory KazooCat mentions in this video that proposes that the more prominent adults from Hometown are actually already aware of the Dark Worlds, and have even visited them before, which I really hope is true because that would be a crazy cool twist. But regardless of what Toriel's connection to the Dark Worlds ends up being, I can't help but feel like her reaction to this one will be one of aversion, either because she's hiding something from Chris, or because she believes the Dark Worlds are inherently evil. So once we catch up with her, I think we'll find her actively attacking Darkeners. And I imagine she won't be very fond of Rousey specifically, given how he is the prince from the dark, and in charge of a fountain. However, once their initial meeting has been completed, Tenna, whose name was revealed on the Spampton Sweepstakes site, and design was finally shown off in some nice new screenshots, will swoop in to either kidnap Toriel, or lead her away somehow. The point is she's going with them, and now it's up to us to get her back, seal the fountain, and go home. Okay, so we have one new Lightener, a ruler, a field, but who else is coming with us? Well, Toriel called the police earlier Undyne. It's going to be Undyne. I know a lot of you want it to be Napstablook, but look, it just won't be. They don't even have a dialogue portrait, and Undyne has the distinction of being the only person in the Light World you can tell about Dark Worlds, but they don't believe you because you're just a dumb kid. There's also a chance she'll appear in the Dark World wearing her night garb, adding further confusion to the whole mystery. Oh look, she has a huge plume! Doesn't that make her so cool? Doesn't that make her cooler than me? You're Anyway, we'll probably have a scuffle with her, or some of Tenna's minions she sicks on us, before we're allowed to leave the static field. I'm really banking on that name. What else are they gonna call it? Carpet Field? Home Field? Nah, it's gonna be Static Field. We move on to our Mage Maze area, which will probably be studio backlot inspired, given the potential for high walls and narrow paths it creates. And here, in an inverse of what happens in Chapter 2, we'll have to stop Toriel from attacking Darkeners in order to stay on the pacifist route. There will also probably be some cryptic shit you have to do in order to access the weird/snowgrave route or whatever we're calling that thing. But I honestly don't have much to say about that besides Undyne will probably die somewhere along it. Rest in pieces, Fish Lady. Somewhere in the middle of this backlot section we're going to get a lore drop, but exactly what Toriel is going to say, I'm not really sure. I'd like her to have some deeper ties to the Dark World and maybe explain what's going on here. But given the nature of Noelle's lore dump, it's more likely that she'll talk about her divorce and why Asgore got fired, or at least something Light World related. There will probably be a proper battle with Undyne after this, but before reuniting with the squad and heading to Tenna's chateau, where Toriel will be removed from the party again for some arbitrary reason because we can't have more than 3 party members in a battle. Okay, so these 2 locations are inside Tenna's castle house thing, I'm 99% sure. For starters, the Stealth Zone screenshot has art of Tenna either side, much like the Switch version of Queen's Mansion. The Green Room is probably the central hub of this area, kind of like the entrance to the mansion in Chapter 2. 2 doors to important areas either side, the bar acting as a shop. It seems pretty cut and dried to me. What's more important though, is that this room is very clearly occupying the space that was once Chris and Azriel's room. The bright green couch and the slightly iffy grey couch paralleling their beds. This means we moved all the way through the house. So maybe the second area won't be studio themed, it'll be kitchen themed? Oh, it'll also probably be where you knock these guys' socks off since we see similar silhouettes in the windows. Getting back on track, the rest of the third area should be pretty by the numbers. You fight rules, you get your Susie astral projection scene, which will probably be with Undyne. I mean, they're both hyper-aggressive lesbians with scales and yellow teeth. If any 2 characters are going to have a heart-to-heart, it's going to be them. There will be a secret boss, which will confirm Woody Theory. It will confirm Woody Theory! Woody Theory is real! And finally, we will have a showdown with Tenna. Everyone will hug and make up. And Chris will go close the Dark Fountain so everyone can go to church tomorrow. Now, initially I thought Chapter 3 would feature some kind of falling out between Rousey and Susie, given how she was growing more suspicious of him in Chapter 2, and how he can just do things a normal Darkener shouldn't be able to do. Darkeners have to be physically moved between Dark Worlds in their item form, but he makes it to the cyber and TV worlds just fine without help. Some Darkeners aren't compatible with some worlds, yet he can enter every one so far with no issue. He brushes off Susie's concerns after the Spampton fight. He knows Chris's dessert preferences even though he never told him about them, and it's okay for him to be in control of a Dark Fountain despite his concerns about them starting the Roaring. Now, I don't think Rousey is evil, but I do think he's going to have to start being transparent soon or he'll risk losing the party's trust. So why do I suddenly think this falling out won't happen in Chapter 3? Well, it's quite simple. He's right here in this Chapter 4 screenshot. So even if a rift in the party is still on the cards, it probably won't happen in Chapter 3 at the very least. Moving on to Chapter 4. What about La Niño and El Niña? You fight them in the kitchen. Everything important happens in the kitchen. Keep up. I didn't forget, you forgot. And Mike? Mike is the big shot soda guy. He's in the kitchen too. Like I said, keep up. Moving on to Chapter 4. I don't have as concrete of an outline this time, but I think it's safe to say Caddy and Jockington will be coming along for this one. Why else would Jockington be featured in such a prominent way in the Church Dark World? I mean, Caddy and Jockington did have search history rooms in Queen's Mansion, but this is so much more intense. He is literally being projected onto something which looks a lot like a dark fountain. If I were to make an uneducated guess, Caddy will probably be our mage, and Jockington will be our pseudo-antagonist. There may also be more than just 2 new Lighteners this time, since there have been a few references to there being a church service the day after Chapter 3. A whole church full of people falling into a dark world would definitely be quite the shakeup. We wouldn't be able to keep it secret anymore, that's for sure. But more realistically, if we are getting any extra Lighteners this time, it'll probably just be Father Alvin, since, you know, he's always at the church, and definitely has some ties to what's going on. It just seems a bit too early in the story to reveal Dark Worlds to the whole town. That's final chapter stuff, not mid-game stuff. I also think the church is the only thing keeping chess theory alive at this point, because Tenna really doesn't look like a rook, but a bishop being in a church makes a lot of sense. And if we consider the fact that one of the definitions of the word rook is to defraud or swindle, then I'd say it's pretty plausible that Tenna may not be a rook, but they may rook us at some point, which, in a very convoluted way, keeps chess theory alive. And if chess theory is alive, you know what that means. Night fight in Chapter 5, baby, which also means it's... There is no roaring night. The night we're going to fight in Chapter 5 will be some random generic unrelated night. Every Dark World we've seen so far has been opened by a different character. Susie opened the first one, Birdley opened the second one, Chris opened the third, and Caddy will probably be the one who opens the fourth. And what evidence do I have to support this? Literally none. I just refuse to believe the night is one person at this point after everything I've seen. I mean, if literally anybody can open a dark fountain, some characters may have done it by accident. Who knows? Oh, shout out to Cammy Boy G. He's one of the reasons I don't think there's just one night. I like the ideas presented in his video on the topic, but the whens and wheres of their potential nights just don't make sense to me. There's just no way their final boss prediction is right. Sorry, Cammy, but it's just not happening. And if it does, I'll go eat a moss and chalk pie. No, but seriously, go check out their stuff. Link down below. Their Rousey video is peak cinema. Well, if I'm so smart, how did I pick my nights, you ask? Well, dumb, shallow reasons mostly. I don't think any of these choices are correct. I'm just illustrating my point that the knight isn't just one person and could be anybody. But, since you asked, Susie was lonely, Birdley was the only other person in the library after it opened, and I seriously think whoever opened it up in the morning would probably notice a giant portal to another dimension in the computer lab, so he just opened it when Noelle wasn't looking, I guess. I just have a gut feeling about Chris, trust me. And Caddy's gonna do something in Chapter 4, okay? I just know it. The knight is not fucking Alvin, shut up about that. Noelle's gonna open a dark fountain in the hospital at some point to try and help her dad get better, because she says this at the end of Chapter 2. I didn't have a better way to transition into that. Speaking of bad segues, what will the new Rousey meme be? In Chapter 1 he had a gun, in Chapter 2 he had weed, what will he have in Chapter 3? I'm keeping my fingers crossed for another round of those Mercedes memes, because those were just amazing.
I'm driving a Mercedes-Benz. These are my friends.
Okay, here we go. The final thing to talk about. W.D. Gaster. He's tied to Jevil, and Spamton, and probably the bunker, and probably the knight, and the tree, and the egg, and Sans, and Undertale, and the vessel we made all the way back at the start. He is the linchpin that holds this whole franchise together, even though we've technically never met him, and we know so little about him. I mean, in Undertale, he was the royal scientist before Alphys, and he fell into the core and was shattered across time and space, which helps to explain how he can be in two parallel, god damn it, I just cannot say that word, two parallel games at the same time. It's what I'm trying to say, okay? Okay? But aside from that, yeah, there's not much that's really concrete. But stay with me for a bit, okay? There's a chance Gaster is in this bunker, right? Okay, so we know that as we move through Dark Worlds, we're also moving through their corresponding Light World areas. This can be observed as early as the Great Door in Chapter 1. It is literally the door connecting the closet to the old classroom. So let me ask you this. Where are we going when we head down into the basements where these secret bosses are? Heck, why do we fall into Dark Worlds? Shouldn't we just walk into them? Why do we fall? Why do dark fountains erupt from the ground? Not the walls, not the trees, just the ground. Any piece of ground in Hometown. I think whatever Gaster was doing in Undertale or Deltarune or whatever required him to harvest darkness in order to conduct his experiments. And after he vanished, there was nobody around to turn off the taps, if you catch my drift. So the darkness has just been building and building underground, only contained by these doors and the earth above it. Yes, I am insinuating that Gaster's super secret bunker lab runs all across the underside of Hometown, and yes, I think there is that much darkness in it. No, I don't think there are humans in there or whatever. This is my crack theory segment, now sit down and shut up. Yes, I am saying the reason the secret bosses are stronger is because they're further underground, where there is more darkness, both the smoky, watery kind and the literal kind. Spamton's new body was marinating in it, that's why it's still so strong at Snowgrave even though you fight him above ground. Yes, that is the reason I'm going with. No, I won't stop leaving this. Why are we going down? Why are we going down? What we've been seeing so far have just been the leaks we have to patch. The real problem is somewhere down there. Somewhere in this pocket of pressurized darkness. And once those doors open, all hell is going to break loose. And the deeper we inevitably have to go into that bunker to find the source of whatever this stuff is, and save what's left of the world after the roaring, the darker and darker it's going to get. And yeah, that's it. I feel kinda better now. Now all I have to do is wait. Just a few more hours, more days, then I'll have my cheeseburgers. Just a little more.
When the light is run.
Oh, also, Susie's gonna get the Megalovania fight. I just know she is. Cammy Boy G is wrong and they just have to accept it. If they have an issue with that, they can meet me behind the Waffle House.